Don't even remember. Right. Start my chat. Well, chat monitoring app. Panel info. Okay. So this will show if I have any viewers. Oh, okay. It's transparent on stream. Okay. Never mind then. Right, how does my Windows look like? Hey, Windows. Thing. Should be able to. Guess the start bar is transparent. Can I change it? Touchpad. Themes. Common language. Can you see? Actually know how to use those. All right. Can you see everything?
Yeah,
Brother.
everything's fine except the taskbar.
Oh yeah, that's not important. It's kind of protection from flashbangs. Like,
Okay, whatever that is.
It's when you open a window and it's all white, and usually like when I stream everything is like dark themed, and suddenly if you open a full screen white window it's like a flashbang to the viewers.
Oh yeah, now I get it.
Yeah, so now everything that's white or gray is transparent. So whenever I open, like for example, this window is all white. For a second it was all white, but yeah, basically it's transparent. It doesn't look white. Right.
Yeah, Nah, yeah, I saw that it looks like chat's background.
Yep. So, to start with, we need an environment where we're gonna code, unless you wanna use something like Notepad++, which is but I would recommend using Eclipse, because that's what I use for writing code.
I think then it's better to go with Eclipse.
Okay, let's do that. So we need to go to Eclipse, download something like this. Download eclipse.org. Sounds about right. Yeah, can I find the version for Python? Maybe with all the plugins installed? Probably. PyDev, Python ID for Eclipse. It's just a plugin, okay. Right, so I'll send you a link. Okay, we need to download Eclipse, like vanilla Eclipse, like with no frills.
Let me try that.
That's right. You can see what I'm doing. Second of link.
I think I'm on a bit different page.
Why? How come?
I just typed Eclipse download into Google and it was a little bit different.
Should be the same eclipse.org. Oh, on my screen it probably looks mostly transparent. It should be white for the most part.
Yeah, it's white and gray.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly transparent on stream. That's
okay,
not
now
an
it
issue.
makes sense.
Okay. So download this. Am I downloading? Don't want to use. If I press download. Oh. Don't need. I download. Oh, it already started. Okay. Right. So we'll install Eclipse. Guess we need Python first as well before we install the plugins. Well, whatever. We can install the environment first.
Okay, so which Eclipse should I choose? Because there's a whole list of Eclipse.
Can you share your screen over Discord? There's a button, share your screen on the left bottom side. Oh, corner. Bottom left corner, there's like a small panel with your name. mute button, deafen, and just above that you have an option
Okay,
to enable your
let's
camera
try
and
that.
share your screen.
Is
Okay.
it working?
Yep.
Okay.
Don't mind if I share this, so it will be visible on stream as well.
No, I don't think I have anything too interesting.
Okay. Oh, I can. Is there a Python version? Does it say Python anywhere? I think it will.
No, I don't think it does.
Yeah, so just pick the first one, Java.
Okay.
Should be no problem. I'll do the same. Oh, I got the same pop-up. Right. Yeah, just install. Accept. Oh, I got multiple times apparently.
Yeah, it happened to me too.
Okay, when it's while it's installing, we need to get Python, because Python doesn't really come with Windows, as far as I know. Python download. Let's see. I never actually installed Python like this.
So how do you code Python then?
Hmm?
How do you code Python then?
Well, on Linux it's installed differently. You just type in the command and it gets installed automatically. And here you need to go to releases, download installation packages, something. Windows is weird. Python 3.10. Down on 3.8. Because, well, that's what I'm writing code in, basically. A specific release. Schedule. Guess we just need to pick one of these. So 3.8.12 is probably the latest.
I found the 3.8.0.
Yeah, but we don't want the oldest. We want 3.8 and then the highest number possible. So the latest version of 3.8. So basically Python, well, I want 3.8 just because the server I have is, well, Debian, which is Linux distribution that runs on my server, supports Python 3.8 max. So I can't, if I write something specific with Python 3.9 or 3.10, I might not be able to run it on my server. So I would rather use older version of Python. So I'm completely certain that nothing will be broken.
Okay,
so that's why I'm looking for 3.8. And then point after that, it doesn't really matter. So the latest, the later it came, the better it is. It has all the newer features, so on, bug fixes.
Okay, so as I can see as well, it's 3.8.12 seems to be the newest.
Yep. Second, I'll send you a link. It downloads. Point. Oh. Okay, press down. Okay. Copy link, right? Discord. Those. Okay, send a link to Python.
Yeah, I think I'm already on that page.
So, I don't know if it actually started the download. Documentation, bugs. Downloads. Start the download. Is the download page for currently supported version? No, to the release you're looking for. You're looking at 3.7.12. Okay. Okay, at least I gave you the right link.
Yeah, but on 3.8.12 it basically it's the same page.
Nice time. Welcome back, Chris. So we're we're setting up the environment at the moment. Get the latest release here. It's a source file. Don't really. Right. The release schedule. Where's the executable? Do I actually need to compile it from source? That seems unreasonable. Or tarball, like that. Hi, Mr. Evertime's brother.
Hi.
I'm not sure if you can see the chat.
When I switch to your stream page, I can, but I'm also looking for the downloads.
They make it so difficult.
It's Windows.
Schedule. Active Python release. Okay, so maybe this is it? A download button. I really want to go compile the source. Features. Looking for Python with a different OS. Version. Is there a difference where I click?
I click.
Like it?
I
Well, I
click
mean-
on 3.8.10, and on the bottom it says files, and there's like Windows installer and stuff. So maybe that one is good for download.
Yeah, we can use that then. I don't really feel like compiling. Well, because you need additional tools and libraries and stuff like that I don't really feel like setting up on Windows. On Linux it's pretty easy. On Windows I'm not sure.
And I think it sounds a little bit too complicated for a first timer.
Yeah, probably not what you're... not a good first experience. Yeah, let's use 3.10 then. 64, Windows embedded, no. Yeah, Windows installer 64-bit, I guess that's the last one. That's what we want. Sounds. Style. Oh. We want to allow this app to make changes. Yes. Alright. Are we following the Hello World tutorial? We're not really following a tutorial just yet. We're just setting up the environment where you can actually run code. Run Python code. So far we're not following it, but we will be following the... At least I plan on following the documentation guide. Which is a startup guide. Don't remember. Startup tutorial or something like that. Python doc. Making sure the first program he learns is Hello World. Ritual. Ritual, not tutorial. Oh, the Hello World. I'm not sure Hello World is worth. It's not really... What do you think, brother? Do you know what Hello World is?
The most of the basic programs that you just write a line to print a line.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like it's worth doing?
No, I remember doing those in school, so maybe we could give those.
Yeah, I agree. We'll go through the, like, there are a lot of topics covered in the Python tutorial, beginner's tutorial, so... And we have new evolved spammers, do we? I don't see them. Where are they?
Yeah,
Oh, I wasn't...
in chat.
Oh, yeah, it's...
Also, one
It's not
quick
nice.
question. Python installed, and there's an option to disable path length limit.
Length limit. What's that?
So a good question, I figured.
Disable. Where is it? Disable path length limit. Can you just use machine configuration to allow programs in Python to bypass characters max path? Why does Windows have that at all? I don't think it will matter. So
Well,
it doesn't matter, I'd say.
If I understand it correctly, if I'm not gonna put it like in 1,000 subfolders, it doesn't matter.
Not really. It like the path, home path, or whatever is that supposed to be max path. It's probably used for all sorts of paths. Just it doesn't really matter, but because well, home path includes all the directories that should be checked for whatever the application is looking for. So, for example, if Python is looking for libraries, it has a home path or library path that will be like a variable in Windows environment that will be accessible to Python. So I assume that's what it's talking about. So the limit would be 260 characters, but it doesn't mean like one path will be 260 characters in length. It means the list of all, because they are like that variable will be a list of paths. So for example, what are Windows directories? C /lib would be one directory, then you put a comma, then another C / or whatever, C double semicolon / or backslash, I don't even remember. User or home, whatever. Well, so you can have multiple paths like that. 260 is plenty, probably fine. If we ever get an error like this, we can. Okay, you can enable it, or I don't even know. This is not something I had to do before. So just enable it, I guess.
Oh, too late, already clicked.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter anyways. Most likely. Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, oh yeah, I got the same thing, so I'll close as well. So now we have Python installed and we have Eclipse. So now we can launch the Eclipse. And then, where was it? Eclipse Python PyDev. So we'll need this plugin. Damn, it's so windy outside.
Yeah,
Windy and raining.
it's like a storm is going through Europe or something.
Yeah, seems like it. Is it? Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the name, but it starts with an E.
Oh, so it even has a name. Wow.
Yeah. So in some countries, it's reaching up to 100 kilometers per hour. So it's getting serious.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Sounds serious. Right, so I send you a link to the plugin page. So basically, when you have Python running, just launch. It doesn't matter the directory, the home directory doesn't matter. Right. That.
Running.
Ooh. Why do you have a console window open?
I don't know. I just typed in Python and pressed it.
Oh,
Since you said that Python must be running.
Python must be running. What? How do you get that?
No. You said that when Python is running.
Oh, I meant Eclipse is running.
Oh, okay.
So we need to launch Eclipse first, and then we can install the plugin. Unis is the name. Oh, okay. Yeah, we are using Windows today because my brother is using Windows. Like, I don't think it's it would be fair to force him to use Linux just because I'm used to Linux. Like, we both will be experiencing stuff for the first time. I'm just, yeah. For me, it will be Windows stuff. For him, will be programming stuff. Right, so when we have this open and we have the browser, we can just drag and drop. This PyDev, and yeah, you see this install. Just click on it and drag on. Should let me drag it into Eclipse like this. Yeah. Close that welcome window. Did it work? There's a button.
Hide? No.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, close this one and drag it into the left part. Or anywhere, I guess.
Yay, Windows is so simple.
This is not a Windows feature, it's an Eclipse feature. Eclipse is a bit, sometimes, a little bit dodgy. So yeah, we'll have an environment set up. Then we can start our project. Let's look at the documentation. So let's see what kind of theory they explain here. Python is easy. Yes, so Python interpreter and extensive and library are freely available. Source and binary form. Okay. So it's free. That's cool. So Python interpreter, interpreter is basically the thing, the application that actually runs the code. So that's what we actually installed, the Python interpreter. Well, I guess, it's an official name, I guess. It also comes with a compiler as well, so you can, it doesn't actually compile. Well, probably it's not even worth going into this. It's like details that are not really important at the moment.
So the only question I got, is the interpreter the Eclipse or
No.
is it
the Python thing? Eclipse is IDE, Integrated Development Environment. Yep, it does come with it. Yeah, it comes with a compiler, but the compiler doesn't actually compile. It converts it compiles it into bytecode, which is not actually it's basically not important. It's like a notepad file, but works for Python and shows output. Yeah. Notepad file? Not really sure I get that analogy. How it's like a notepad file. Like your code is in a file, yes, like a text file, which gets interpreted by the Python interpreter and so on. But details.
we'll get into those later.
Yeah, so Python, Eclipse is just basically a fancy text editor. Like it's nothing else. It has advanced features, like it has like a bunch of features that are useful when we're writing code. Software update, so we need to restart the Eclipse. Accept. See it on your window, don't see it on mine. We don't need to install it. Oh, it's installing now, okay. Okay, let's go back to the documentation. What else? Python interpreter is easily extended with new functions and data types implemented in C and C++. So basically Python is itself, Python interpreter is written in C++ and some C, I guess. Well, that's not what it says, but I'm just saying that's how it is. Blah blah blah. Suitable for. This tutorial introduces the reader informally to basic concepts and features of the Python language. Good. Yeah, all the references, so basically documentation. I sent you a link to this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, if you need I just send you again. Betting
doesn't
your
get
appetite.
lost.
I'm not sure this is worth doing. Just a bunch of theory explaining how cool Python is. No. Has its place. I feel like it's the best and coolest programming language. It is most definitely the fastest growing, considering user base. Right, Python, using Python interpreter. So this is if you would launch it in the console, like a window, then you would be needing this, but won't be doing that. We have Eclipse. Eclipse makes it a lot easier, a lot faster to do certain things, a little bit more convenient, less messing around with command lines. Let's see. Wait, same thing. Oh, it's just the same thing but different chapter. Interpreter and its environment. None of this is important. Formal introduction to Python. Let's see what they give here. Yeah, this is all of working with Python console itself directly, which is you can do.
But as you said, you can even code in Notepad++, so
Yeah, you can definitely do. Well, Notepad++, I imagine would have plugins that will check color code. Well, you can write it in Notepad, but because any text editor will do for writing code. Notepad++, I'm sure, would have plugins that will color code and annotate your code, and mark mistakes or syntax errors, and might even have a way to run the application itself. You can code in Notepad too. Yeah, you're right. Well, that's absolutely right. All right. Let's see. Is there anything interesting here? Yes, we can. Yeah, lists are important. Yeah, I guess this is a good starting point. Paper works too. Well, paper, you can't really run paper, so you will have to type it out in something after you have it on paper, unless you're unless you're a student and your teacher for some reason requires you to write it on paper, and he compiles it by looking at it, or runs it by looking at it. Like start. Right. So when we have our environment ready, so Eclipse is just fancy editor with fancy features that will make it a little bit easier. We won't have to go into console and type out stuff for the most part. Right.
okay.
So we'll create a new project. So we click create a project, and we will pick PyDev project, basically the last one. This will be basically a Python project. So it will know that this contains Python things. Project name, that's learning. I go to usually when I'm learning something. Project type Python, grammar version, so we'll pick 3.8. Else. Don't think I need to change additional syntax validation. Let's pick 3.8 if we can. Please configure interpreter. It's from list. Yeah, it should detect environment variables that are used when auto searching for Python interpreter. Following path. Okay. It doesn't find Python? So it needs me to set up it manually. Okay. Wait, we installed Python, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can actually run it. Python 28. I'm not even sure that's how you run it. Read. Python. It's not recognized. Launch App Store. What?
You can get Python from the App Store?
Yeah, you can, but it suggests Python 3.8, 3.10, which you don't really want. Widget. There's the store. Microsoft Store. Python 3.8. App. So maybe we need to install it through here. Get. Starting download. Because it would be annoying to have a... Well, I guess it depends where it was installed. 5 megabytes. But to download? Your first in path. For Python executable. I imagine it's somewhere in the program files. Program files.
Still doesn't find it automatically?
Hmm?
Oh, I got it from the App Store and now select from list works.
Yeah, that's how it should work. Yeah, install it from the App Store. Well, I'm waiting for it to install. Still install my machine. I was just exploring.
Oh, okay.
So select from the list works. Okay, that's good. So you select 3.8. Should all be good. Look. Let's see. System validation. Oh, additional syntax validation. Okay, that's good. Project to Python path. That's also good. Should be good at least. Okay, it's done. Right, so I can now from list. Right, 3.8. I don't see anything else, so okay. Oh, you have a different. Oh, now I can Python. Okay, Python. I guess the default it is. Firewall has blocked some features of this app. Eclipse allow access. Sure, what was that about? That was about.
Just some random data collection, don't worry about it.
Yeah, most likely. Well, I have a very specific Windows. Well, I just downloaded it from Microsoft, so open perspective. Okay, open perspective. You just press finish and open perspective. So perspectives is a feature of Python. Basically, I think it's see-through on stream. But here on the top right corner, you should see some little icons. One of them open perspective, another one is Java. Java is the default because it's meant for Java. And now, since we have PyDev, we have another option for PyDev perspective. So perspective just, you have different layouts. Well, basically whatever window you open, a good example. Where's my source? It didn't put down a source. Okay, whatever. Create a folder first. Well, I'll explain about perspectives a little bit later. It's not important. Nothing is important. Let's make a folder, source folder in our in the project.
Do I do it as well?
Yeah, because this is, well, SRC is, it can be anything, but like there's a convention that your root folder that contains all the code is just usually named source, SRC, okay, shorthand for source, because will have source code and a different, well, if you have tests, you put it in tests directory. If you have like compiled version, executables and so on, like your deliverables, they can be called like that when something you compile and it's not part of the source code itself, then yeah, you just basically create a bunch of folders. But for now we just have source, so, and we add a new file, and the name could be anything like learning.py. Just make sure you add an extension .py at the end, and that will recognize that it's a Python file, and everything will be fine. Default Eclipse preferences for PyDev. Wait for ongoing build before launching. Never. Sure. So don't launch if it's...
I'm not getting that message.
Oh, you didn't get it? Okay.
No.
Guess it doesn't really matter. Just basically settings you can change at any point. Right, and now we can write our Python code. So for example, so here, looking at the tutorial, let's add music. I can change music, no problem. It is very chill though, yeah, I agree. Might be a little bit loud. Yeah, okay, this is a little bit more cheerful. Right. For example, I guess, how much do you know about programming? Let's start with that.
Nothing. It's a bunch of letters and numbers that make things run.
Okay.
So I thought about it quite some time, and I thought that it's like a list of instructions.
Well, basically, you're right. That's what it that's basically what it is. Just a set of instructions, and just different languages have different way of expressing the instructions. So the most basic thing is a variable in programming. So all of these, well, this is talking about comments. So if you just copy paste this code, pretty much have to be. You can write it out, I guess. Here. And yeah,
it should do something, right?
Well, I guess we'll get to that. So basically this just indicates, I wonder if it's actually visible on stream. Not really all that easy to read from what I can see. Yeah, it doesn't look readable. That's annoying. Change theme. Oh yeah, let's change theme. Eclipse. Hopefully it's not as difficult on Windows. Hopefully it works better than Windows than on Linux. No preferences. Appearance, light, dark. Okay. now it should be a little bit more readable on stream. Oh, so you made, so basically what it's saying that when you want to write a comment in code, you just start it with a hashtag. So basically, and so that line, that instruction will get ignored when compiler will be reading it. Won't do anything with it if it starts with a hashtag, or if it encounters hashtag eventually. So, for example, if you write some code like on this line, create a variable, assign it a value, and then you write a comment, then everything after the hashtag will be ignored, and that's why it's colored gray, to let you know that this is a comment.
Okay.
It doesn't really look right on your screen though. Anything.py look right. Just looks like normal text. Everything is black. Can you right click on the file and then open with Python editor? I think it opened, yeah. Oh, that's why you didn't get the option.
Yeah.
Yeah, just press OK. Doesn't really matter. Well, when you open it to Python editor, then it understands the syntax, so it colors it appropriately and so on. So
Okay, and now I get it.
yeah, I think it opened in text editor for some reason. Yeah, the game, you don't really have to worry about that. Mostly for the stream. If you like white, you can keep it white. But dark is a little bit nicer to work with.
Not a
Right.
pro yet, so I'm good with white.
Okay. So basically, this is just about comments. You can write comments. You can write multi-line comment. Well, basically you write 3 quotes. So there are 2 ways of writing comments. So both will be considered comments. But hashtag, you need to, like, each line would have to have a hashtag. But if you want to write a multi-line comment without hashtags at the beginning, you can just put down 3 quotes, either single quote or double quote. Basically, it should work the same way, if I remember correctly. Yeah, triple double quotes or triple single quotes will give you. Oh, it will give it the same result. It will be basically a comment, multi-line comment. Oh, sometimes you need those, so just something. Let's see. Oh, I guess we can start with doing basic math, which is print. I guess print should be the first command you should learn, is because print will just print out whatever you want, like whatever you tell it. So you write print, and you need, so basically print is a built-in command in Python, built-in function. In Python, functions like I guess I don't really have a good way to explain it. I want to say it. Methods in Python are called functions, but yes, if you don't, doesn't really say much to you. So basically,
it doesn't.
right. But we'll get to functions a little bit later then. For now, print is a thing that will print something out. Whatever you tell it, it will just print it out. So for example, oh, one cool thing. Blah blah blah, what's going on?
I don't know. You were talking about the quotes and stuff, and it doesn't register as a comment?
And blah blah blah.
Oh,
right. Maybe I
thought
said
you were
something
looking
that
at
doesn't
mine.
make sense.
Or maybe he looked at my code.
You, it's not visible on stream at the moment. I can just see it off stream, off a little bit to the side. I can see what you're doing, but the stream can't see what you're doing.
Oh,
Alright.
Okay.
It's like very similar to what you have. What he understands? Oh, that's what he understands when you say methods and functions. Yeah, basically, that's what. Yeah. I realized that after I said it.
But also coming back to the triple
Mhm.
those, yeah, what I understood, it should interpret everything in between those as a comment as well, right?
Yes.
It should turn gray then, right?
Yes. Well, you know, it's
Because
it
because
doesn't
I have
it has two meanings. It doesn't mean that, well, it doesn't always mean that it is a comment, or maybe it does actually. Don't know. I thought it could be a multi-line string. Basically, hashtags are meant for like not serious comments. Usually, so uh, to make life easier for developers when they write code, when, for example, you create an application and you create a function that can be called like something that does stuff, and usually developers have to document it properly. So they need to write like a little bit of text explaining what this function is for, what parameters it takes, what will it return, and how it works, and so on. And usually it doesn't take it takes up more than one line. So one-liner comments are usually not serious, something you have for yourself or just. But multi-line comments are usually placed in specific places, like at the beginning of a method or after a definition of the class, explaining how it's used. And those texts need to be visible. So that's why they are green. So multi-line comments are green and single-line comments are gray because like they are usually not important. They're just something like a note for yourself. And multi-line comments are like a little bit more formal and used in some. Well, for example, there could be a tool that takes your code and automatically generates a documentation file for it, and it relies on those multi-line comments being in specific places and formatted in a specific way. Then it can parse them out and create a basic documentation without any additional input.
okay.
It means it's string that it's not assigned to any variable, like remarks on your test by teacher. Oh, well, does it actually? Can you assign a multi-line? Okay, let's check. Because I'm not really sure. Well, I guess we're learning things, both of us. Oh, one cool thing about Eclipse: if you hold the left Alt, like you go to with your cursor on a line of code or any line, it doesn't matter. It could be, and hold left Alt and then press up and down. It will move that line up and down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this is very easy. Well, it makes it a little bit easier to navigate your, to orientate your code. So basically, what I want to check, if it's actually just a string. Let's see. Let's have a test something. Have triple quotes. Right, and let's try to print this test value. So, in theory, if this is just a string assignment, but I think this is how it works. I think Risk is right. So it's not just that it's a comment, it's also a string. Well, we'll get to strings. So
if you don't assign it to anything specifically, it's like it stays on the side.
It's a comment at that point. It doesn't do anything. Basically like a comment. It won't do anything if it's not assigned to anything. Like if it's just declared as a multi-line string. Okay, let's run it and see what happens. Python run. So it actually printed out all the lines. So I guess, yeah, he's right. It's not just a multi-line comment. It's also a string definition. So strings. What are strings? So strings is like a very basic. Well, so first of all, you can assign a number, seen here, spam. So if I do print spam here, if I run it, the console output will output spam. So whatever I assign it here, it will print it out. Because, well, that's the value. When you so A string basically is another printed another type of variable. So like this is an integer number, this is a string, and it's basically anything you quote with single or double quote will be a string, and you can assign anything, like it's basically a free text. So say we have a variable named something name, and then you assign it with single or double quotes, doesn't matter, but it has to be on both sides. Then anything inside it will be considered a string. So this is a string. And a nice thing about strings that if you output them somewhere to a file, for example, it will be the same. It doesn't change. Like it doesn't get modified. The basic use of the 3 comma string is that unlike double quotes and single quotes, it shows black lines. So it's useful in some cases. What do you mean? 3 comma strings blank. Oh, the basic use of 3 comma strings is that unlike the double quotes, single quotes, it shows blank lines. Ah, I see what you mean. Like single quotes do the same thing. Like you can't say it doesn't show blank lines. Like I'm pretty sure if you put down /n/n, it will display the empty lines. Let's make them truly empty. There will be 2 empty lines. Then the third one will have this is a string. Yeah, so it's not about showing blank lines. Like normal strings in single quotes don't ignore empty lines. That's not how it works. I usually don't use this form. I just use single quote, and for comments I use this triple quote. But yeah, I guess it is a little bit different because I guess what's the actual difference? What would be the official? No, I guess you get the point. Unless you have any questions how strings work.
No, I think I kinda got it.
Yeah, so this
Maybe?
is basically a multi-line string, which can be considered a comment if you just. I guess you can. It will be considered a comment if you just do a single quote. Won't give you an error or anything. It actually gives a warning of some sort. Let's see the warning. Bad indentation. Okay, let's. Indentation. Why is it? It has a squiggly line here. Changed. Wait. Because indentation. Oh, it's. I guess it doesn't like if you have a single quote just by itself.
I deleted my triple quotes and single quotes work fine.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's a spell checker. So if you write a typo just like a normal Word document, it tries to figure out if you made a typo.
Yeah, but single
cool.
quotes don't go through lines. It's like a one-line comment then.
Yes, but it's green.
Yeah.
So it's readable. Also, there is a feature in. I'm not sure if it's an Eclipse feature. Actually, it probably is just an Eclipse feature. If you write a hashtag, which is a comment, and write to do in capital letters and then space and let's say anything like a comment, it should generate a task. Yeah, so you can see there's an icon. It generated a task which you can actually see. There is a window. So if you open window, control view, tasks. So there is a special window where you can have see the list of all tasks. So for example, if you're going through the code and you notice something that is not right, but you don't really have time to fix it right now, you just quickly do, well, write a to do and whatever is the problem, and you just forget it for now. And you then, when you have time, you can come back and look through the tasks and see what to do things you left your code. So this is like a nice feature of Eclipse, which is not sure how useful it will be just right now. Let's see, if you save it, it should generate a task like this. Should have an icon next to it. Right. Oh, you need a space after the semicolon.
Oh no, I saved it and then the task appeared.
Ah, okay, well, you don't need this. Yeah, it's like a useful thing, like, you know, when you have a big project open and there's a lot of files, lots of stuff happening.
Useful for, I would say, organized technical debt.
Yeah, technical debt. You know, technical debt, that's... Oh.
Yeah, you told me about it some time ago.
I was ranting about it quite a while ago, actually. So, I'm impressed that you remember that.
I really liked the term.
Yeah, it's a very good term. I agree. Like it's it's very relevant in development in general. All right. So yeah, these are strings. You can write anything like text. Another cool thing in Python. This is well, I guess we'll learn in Python sense. So basically, strings can be formatted, and basically there are multiple ways, but the best way, the easiest way, is basically before you write a string, you put down an F. So basically this will tell Python, if before the string you have an F character, it will know that this string needs to be formatted beforehand. And formatting gives you an option to do cool things like inserting values. So for example, I have a value, say spam. This is a string and spam is spam, and I insert a value from a variable like this. So F, when the string is being formatted, you can insert variables using the curly brackets. So basically in the middle of the string, you put down curly brackets, and it will let you just, basically it will be run as a code inside the string. So each time you display the string or use it somewhere, it will run that code inside that string to actually get the final version of the string. So basically, when you put an F, it basically becomes a template of some sort. It doesn't become, well, it's a string template of sorts. So for example, if I run this, the actual output will be, this is a string and spam is, and it outputs the actual value from the spam. How's it working? You seem to be doing well.
How did you insert the thing?
Curly brackets.
Okay. But chose as orange.
Yeah, because wait, is that correctly spelled? It should be orange. It should be a different color. For me it's like light blue, but I'm in dark theme, so the colors are different. Yeah, but it looks good. As long as spam is not misspelled. Ask you to save. See any output?
Yeah, me too. Maybe.
Oh yeah, print text. Print the variable. Yeah. actual string.
Yeah, it works.
Excellent. So this is cool thing, like this is, I use a lot. I use this a lot because you need to manipulate strings quite a bit. Right. So strings, numbers, so basically this is how variables work. Variables in Python can hold more than just values, like this string is one value, this number is a value, even this formatted string is also considered a value. But even though, for example, I print it here, I can do it like this. So if I change the spam value, spam to something else, T555, now I print out name again, the name, it will have, like, even though the string is the same, template is the same. Oh, the values are not, okay. I didn't expect that. So I guess it's not really a template, it gets run when it gets assigned a value. So whatever the value of the spam was when it was assigned, that's what the value will be. Well, that's what the final string will look like. So I guess I was I was a little bit wrong in that part, because I thought that 555 will be assigned now. Case.
So you just need a different name, so it doesn't collide.
It's not about collision, it's about when the actual assignment works, when the actual formatting happens. So it turns out that formatting happens when I assign the value to the name, to the variable. And if I update whatever values were used in the formatting, like, it doesn't change the string itself, because string is just a fixed string. It's like a fixed characters, like sequence of characters. So, yeah, that's why it doesn't work like that. So if I actually wanted to update, I would have to assign the same value again, and this will refresh whatever the spam was. Actually, assignment should go first. I assign the value to spam, and then I use it to format another string. Now the values will be different. Right, well, I guess I'm learning things as well. Very basic things.
Nice.
Right. Well, there are lots of different types of variables with values. Like, another important, like, fundamental, like a basic type of variable would be a floating point number. Say a float, and well, I guess it's nothing special. Basically, it's the same way as numbers. It works the same way as numbers, but the only difference is you have a decimal point, like you have a fraction of it as well. And those will be considered different types. So in certain places, certain operations can only be done with certain types. So if it requires an integer, it means like just a whole number without any fractional parts. And when it says it accepts floating point numbers, that means like it's like any real number. And it's a string is a string. Right. And I get a spammer again. Right. I guess the variables, well, you'll encounter them little by little. Doesn't really matter. Like, these are the basic ones that are the most common. It's not really all that important anyways. So, next thing, let's see what the tutorial suggests. It started with comments and numbers. Okay, this is about numbers. So yeah, can do mathematical operations like add them, subtract them, multiply, and it will follow the what's the priority that like the algorithmic priority. So basically, multiplication and division is done first, then subtraction and addition. So this will result in, it will multiply 6 by 5, so it will be 30, and the result will be 20, as it says here. So basically, it follows the basic math priority order. Division. So this is how you what's the name? It's not the root, it's the other thing.
It's completely opposite.
Yes, of the root. But damn, I forgot how it's named.
I think it says it right there.
Oh yeah, the power. Yeah, calculate the power of the number. Right. So you 5 to the power of 2 is basically 5 times 5, so it will be 25. 2 to the power of 7, 128. So on. So this is how you like calculate the power of the number. Basics, simple math. Equals is an assignment. Oh yeah, so this is just basic operations you can do to calculate. This is how you assign to the values to the variables. Also, variables can be used in other calculations and so on. If you use a variable that doesn't have any value assigned, it will complain and say that the value is undefined. So, well, you'll run into that eventually. Floating point, so yeah, it's floating point stuff. Well, this is just how you define it. So basically, if you use a floating point number in some sort of math calculations, the result will be a floating point number as well. But right, interactive mode. Expression is assigned to the variable. Interactive mode is basically if you type in the console itself. Let's see, do we have access to that? Sure we do. Actually, the application needs to be running. So basically, when the application is running, there should be a console. It's real quick. So yeah, I have a Python console here. Switch that. So basically I can write that interactive mode. So I can just write Python code here and spam. Wow, it's really hard to see. So basically executes code on the go. Yeah, well, it's not that important. Nothing is important. I get a feeling that I'm saying that too many things are not that important.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming a theme right now.
Yeah, it's sure. But yeah, you won't be using interactive mode for now. Like, there's no need. You'll be writing simple code, so interactive mode is for debugging things and doing stuff in the middle. Like if you want your application to stop at the middle and you want to insert some code or do some changes while it's running, that's what the interactive mode is good for. But otherwise, like, until you're doing that, like, it's important. It's not relevant. Even though in the examples they are all using interactive mode, so basically anything you can write in code, like you can write in interactive mode as well, and it will be accepted as valid Python code and gets executed immediately on top of that. Right. So print command is explained here, I guess. Yeah, the print. You don't want characters prefaced. To interpret a special character, you can use raw string by adding R before the first quote. Oh, so if you put R, it will mean that this is a raw string, basically. So there are special characters when you create a string. For example, where's so for example, I was using /n. /n is basically a special character in probably, I don't want to say Python specific because it's used in a lot of places. So for example, if I create a string and write blah blah blah, and I want to insert a new line. In other languages, you can't make just multi-line comments. If I just press and enter, it will just break the string, and it won't it will be a syntax error at this point because I open the string and never finish it and the line ends. So to work around that, there are special characters that are expressed in a form where you write a backslash and then a special character that, well, basically a combination of backslash and a letter will mean that this has to be replaced by a special character. For example, what I used was /n will mean new line. So this combination will be replaced by new line. Let's see if I print out string, all of this. Oh yeah, there's another cool feature of Eclipse, by the way. So if you select multiple lines and then hold left control and slash, and you press slash on your keyboard, which is like at the bottom row at the very next to the right shift. Basically, yeah. So
it turns them all into comments.
Yeah, so that's very convenient when you want to comment out a bunch of stuff. Well, if you don't need it anymore and you don't want to delete it. So basically this will print out, so /n is a special character that means new line. There are other characters like /t, I think it means a tab symbol. So if we run it now, yeah, so you see after blah, it entered instead of /n, it created a new line character, which means like new line starts here. And after the second blah, it inserted instead of /t, it inserted a tab symbol. There are a couple of few more, but yeah. Damn, the bots are annoying today.
Tab symbol, you mean big space?
Yes. But it is a special character. It looks like just a longer space. And it usually, well, you can replace it with 4. Well, it's a convention thing. In certain places, certain editors, in certain environments, you can convert tab to two spaces or 4 spaces, and it will be considered a tab, but yeah, it's not relevant here. Oh. So basically, when you output, so what's the use? Why would you want tab? For example, have a special character. When you output when you try to format your output nicely, but you have strings of varying length. If, for example, I wrote, what would be a good example? Blah blah blah. Then let's say we have a new line and some text. We want the text a little bit longer, then we do another tab. Pretty much I can copy paste this a couple of times. Change the length of this. Let's see. So you see what the result is. Even though the first value varies, the second is nicely aligned. So you get like a column, like something like columns. So that's why you would want to use tabs instead of just normal space, because tab is not actually a fixed amount of space. It varies. Certain editors won't show it, but usually consoles treat tab as like it's like a step to a certain point. If that makes sense.
Kinda does.
Yeah, so basically when you want to align something nicely in console output, then you can use that. That's the main use case, I would say. So basically it's for alignment.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that was even a question, but I just felt like explaining.
Nah, you just got into it and I went with it as well.
Okay, well, hopefully that will be of some use at some point. Right.
Yeah, maybe. I got another question not related to programming.
Okay.
I'm thinking about eating dinner, and do you mind if we make I don't know, 15-minute break?
Sure, we can do that. Oh, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do in those 15 minutes though.
Eat?
Well, you gonna eat. I don't have dinner ready, so
Oh,
I won't be eating. I'll be doing something else.
okay then. I'll just put myself on mute and just come back when I'm ready. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Let me know when you're back.
Okay.
Let's play Wordle. Ooh, I haven't actually played Wordle. Those 15 minutes. Okay, I'm down. Want to do that? Wordle. Example. Letter is the word. Is the word and in the correct spot. Oh, I is in the word but in the wrong spot. Who is not in the word. Okay. So. New Wordle will be available each day. So how do I start? Oh, I can. Do I just enter a letter? I guess A. Not enough letters, so I need to guess the whole word? How does this work? Do I need to write out a 5-letter word? There aren't that many I know. Just guess a random word in your first try. Should be a word. Oh, so it has to be a 5-letter word. Okay. Able? So it has T and E. Oh, so I get another guess. It doesn't have A. It doesn't have B or L. So T is in the wrong spot and E is in the wrong spot. Can it be a name of a city? Oh, actually A is in that name. Wow. That's... yeah, it definitely can take 15 minutes to figure out. A. So... oh, it can be multiple times, right? Yes. See, we have a lot of letters. So it can be multiple times. Note, only 4 letters. Calculating letters is how many letters there are in the word. What else can I come up with? Oh, it has O and E. Oh, it probably has O or U. Because it needs to have more... what is it? consonants. Answer is 5-letter word. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I can't think of any 5-letter word that could fit this description at the moment. Not the first T. You have 6 tries. Yeah, I can see that. I need to come up with a try though. Not really good with English words. Some other word. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. To find out other letters. Yes. Yeah, but it needs to be there. But E needs to be not the last one, and T is not the first one. Yeah, but I want to figure out, like, I don't want to use any word, any 5-letter word. It needs to be, like, meet the criteria of the first guess. Right. I can't think of any 5-letter words that have T and E. The correct spots. Yeah, but if you use other words, you get more letters to find. Yeah, but I still have only 6 tries. I don't think just having more letters will help me. Maybe it will. Okay. So, in that case, maybe I should use just the letters I want to guess. And try to put a word out like that has all of them. So OU. H. H seems like a good letter. Don't you, how do you spell hour? It's only 5 hours. Hours. Okay, so I have all the 5 letters. And all of them are in the wrong spot. It starts with E, R, O, or O. What? I don't know words like that. Starts with E. The O. With other. Hey, it was other. Impressive. Not really impressed. Okay, well, that's cool. I guess you can only guess one word per day. Yeah, well, an interesting concept. I've heard about this game, I've never actually tried it. Yes, it's cool, but when you're not a native English speaker, it's a lot harder. I don't really like board games, just because of that. My vocabulary isn't that strong. Well, maybe it's one way to improve it. Right. Let's see what else should I teach. Or read ahead. Ah, lists. Lists are very important. So there's a bunch of things to learn about lists. First steps to a program, so while cycles. Print. I think read statement would be nice. Then write the file. How far is that? Action to Python, more control flow if range, defining functions, data structures, function. Input output, wow, that's so far away. And you don't even output it to the file. Oh, there's reading and writing to files. So yeah, this is a cool thing. At least it's something useful. Could actually do something with this. Because if you have a file with stuff, you can actually parse it out, and maybe you want to compile something to a file. Oh, JSON dump, that's cool. I don't know what that dumps method does. Have methods, functions, dumps, okay. JSON dump or dumps? What's the difference? Is this object as JSON formatted stream? So supposed to file what? AP. Method stream to file-like object. Okay. Synonym for file object. The file is file-like object. Okay. Reading and writing to files is the more exciting thing at the beginning. Because when you have a file, you can actually do stuff with it. Yeah, you can do some math. You can learn about yeah, you can learn about cycles, and you can use cycles to generate some data or save it to the file, and then you can open the file and use loops to actually go through that data, do something with it. Like that's like, let's say bare minimum to actually write an application that's useful for something. It's probably what the Python is mostly used for, is manipulating data. Like its strong suit. Okay, what else can I do? We can play some chess. What do you think about that? Oh, puzzles. Oh, some puzzles. Some puzzles. Just puzzles. Can play it. I prefer watching. Okay, I'll do some puzzles. I can stop at any point. Okay, let's start. So what is this? Take the queen. It's a puzzle. Oh, I can take another piece. Free. Okay, that. Oh, I guess the difficulty is 100. Those are quite easy. So here, what can I do? Put the rock. Guess if I go here, he doesn't really have a choice. He has to take, but after I take back, it's mate. Okay, so I have a check here. What else can I do? I only have pawns otherwise. Not great. I can't take with my king. And that's the only check I see. Okay, when I check, doesn't really have choices. He has to go to the one side or the other. I guess the right way would be this. Otherwise, if it goes here, it's just checkmate. For that, so it goes there, so I can go here, check again, and oh, it's checkmate. Doesn't really have any other moves. Okay, this is it. Oh, can block with the queen for one move. Right. I'm black. Oh, this looks very obvious. Pinning his queen to the king. Yeah, there's no defense to that, so I guess I'll just take the queen. That's the whole puzzle. Let's see. Ooh. Oh, this looks like a fork, so if I go here, I fork the king and the bishop. Yeah, when I take the bishop, I also protect the pawn, so if he goes close to the pawn. Okay, correct. Here I see a check, which will bring me, well, basically will get the bishop for free if I do that. Anything else? Pawn is protected, so I can't take it with knight. That's it. Getting a free bishop. Black to. So let's see. I don't really see any checks. Interesting. Oh, there is a check here, which forks king and the rook. After that, I can actually go here. That actually won't be a mate. See, I think this is the right first move. Yeah, I just. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, actually, my rook isn't hanging. The other rook is protecting it. Oh, I didn't see what's the difficulty.
I'm back.
Hey, welcome back. I was doing some chess puzzles. Played some Wordle as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
What did you think of my Wordle?
Well, you guessed it in 3 attempts, so I guess pretty good.
Hopefully. Well, did you have me muted?
No, but I had my headphones off, so I
Ah,
didn't quite hear everything.
didn't hear my struggle. I was just sitting here trying to figure out, trying to remember any five-letter word. So that was my biggest struggle. So if you didn't hear that, yeah, impressive. Guess you
Nah,
did
but
three tries.
I just heard something about hours and I saw some Googling, so I kind of
Mm,
figured that was
okay.
a hurdle.
Yeah, it was a second word I could come up with that had 5 letters. Second, I wanna do this puzzle. Kind of. I can't actually. I don't see any checks. That's interesting. So, do I have anything else I can? Yeah, this is more interesting. More exciting. Wait, don't I get a bishop if I go here? Attack the queen? Queen has to move because bishop is protected by the knight. But this bishop will be undefended. Won't be defended. So I just take it for free. Right. Looks like it was. Okay. Enough chess. Chess puzzles. Right. So I was thinking what else, what would be next? I think like writing and reading from files is probably one of the most useful things you can learn at the very beginning. Because in combination with cycles, with looping and so on, you can actually generate some data, save it to the file, then you can write another application that takes that file and using it can loop through that data and parse it and do some stuff with it. Does that sound good to you?
Do you mean as in if I understand it, or as in if I'm okay to learn that?
The hell is this? What can I emulate on RetroArch? Making an emulation machine. Model 8000 Elite SFF Intel E 4 gigabytes. Oh, I have no idea. You're asking the wrong person. I don't really deal with emulation all that much. So especially with RetroArch, I have no idea about that distro. Or isn't? Wait, isn't that for emulating old consoles? Yeah. Sorry, I can't help you with that. So no, I wasn't asking about if you understand it. Do you think it would be useful? Would you like to learn reading, writing to file first?
Oh, you said it's useful, so I trust you.
Yeah, I think it's useful because with that you can actually write something. Is Linux faster than Windows? Oh, not sure. I'm sure it can be. Well, depends. It all depends on your machine and what you're doing with it. It definitely can be faster, especially when, well, with modern Windows they are so full of bloat and other garbage. Then yeah. Right. Generally, yes, it is. I would agree. But mostly because it doesn't come with a bunch of extra stuff you don't actually need. 250 gigabytes enough space? Yeah, plenty. Well, again, it depends. If you're gonna be downloading a bunch of movies, then yeah, you will run out of space pretty fast. Otherwise, 250 gigabytes is enough for Windows as well. Right. So, reading and writing to files. Just hand it open, input, output, right. So basically, where do we start? Open. So basically there is another command called open. It's also, well, a function. It's built into Python. So if you use that, F, we assign F whatever open, basically opens a file that I specify here. Well, it takes 2 arguments. It should take 2 arguments. Like if you hover over a method, if it has so these come from those multi-line comments. So basically, found. Let external hard drive if needed. Yeah. So the beauty of Linux is you set it up the way you like it for whatever you need. Sorry. Going back to open. So basically you just specify any file name and then it doesn't actually say what kind of parameters it accepts. Don't see them listed here. Basically it takes 2 parameters by default. I guess you can read the documentation. Page, open. Built-in function. So yeah, it takes file, then it takes mode of opening. So R means read mode, W means write mode. So basically you wanna open the file for reading or writing. I think you can do both. So basically if you can write, you can read as well. I think, maybe. I don't remember. Yeah, so there's a bunch of modes. Open for reading, open for writing. Truncating the file first. Okay. So truncating basically, if I understand it correctly, it means just removing whatever, like at the end, if it has any white spaces, it will just remove them. So it will add at the very end of the file, minus any white space, like new lines and space characters that doesn't have anything in it. X, open for exclusive creation. Failing if the file already exists. Oh, so you want to create a new file, but you want to just make sure that this file will be new, and you're just creating it just now. I guess this is a mode. A, open for writing, appending to the end of the file if it exists. Oh, so this will be different. Oh, so truncating doesn't mean it will just remove white spaces. It will remove everything. It will override basically your file. And A will actually add to the end of the file. So if you open with IA and write to the file, it will add at the end. So it basically extends the file. B, binary mode. Yes, if you need binary data to be read from the file, you would use that. Text mode. Well, this is the default. Not
So
sure.
if you don't put any mode, the text mode will be selected. Or,
Apparently.
but it says default by R as well.
Yeah, so it is. That's why I'm trying to figure out, why do you have text mode? Like I'm reading and writing like normal strings as text. So what's the difference? Okay, the default mode is R. Open for reading text. Synonym of RT. Oh, so you can combine them. Okay. Modes W plus and W plus B. Open and truncate the file. Modes R plus and R plus B. So plus open for updating, reading and writing. Okay, I guess yeah, you can experiment with those. See what the actual difference is. But yeah, basically, you give a file name and give it the mode you want it to be open in, and then you can actually start doing stuff with the file. But I guess for our purposes you need just read or write. Plus works as well. Oh, basically, I'm not sure I gave you the link. Let's see, just in case. So this is a link to the documentation page. It's the wrong link.
So,
Press the wrong link.
but we were in 7 something, so
No.
no?
You pressed the wrong link. Just on the older one, yeah. So
Oh,
the new one is basically, it just links you directly to the open function documentation. So that open is basically, this is the full-on documentation. If you want to figure out what something does, that's where you go and read. Like, it's not like documentation, it's not something you, QBRXR is now following. Thank you for the follow. Hopefully this is entertaining. Right. So the purpose of documentation, it's not something you need to memorize or anything. It's just like a reference. When you need to figure out what something does exactly, like what kind of modes, for example, there are and what's the difference, this is where you would go. You would go to that documentation page and try to read, because this is what the creators of Python, basically the same team that created Python, created this documentation explaining what everything does and how everything is supposed to work. And
okay.
Python documentation is pretty good. So if you don't understand why something works, like if you call a function and it doesn't do exactly what you want, or doesn't work like you expect, like this is the first place you should go, is just go look at the documentation and try to find the documentation for that specific feature. So for example, open, like you can pass along like quite a few parameters which usually have default. So buffering is -1, whatever that means, I don't know, I never read it. So I have no idea, but maybe in some cases you need to change it, and if you're curious enough you can go and try to figure out where it actually explains that part, because here it is buffering. Let's see, buffering, mention buffering somewhere. Okay, buffering is an optional integer based to use the buffering policy. Well, I have no idea what that means. Pass
That
0?
explains a lot.
Exactly. Pass 0 to switch buffering off, only allowed in binary mode. 1 to select the buffering, line buffering. Oh, only usable in text mode. And integer more than 1 to indicate the size in bytes of fixed size chunk buffer. When no buffering argument is given, default buffering policy works as follows. Okay, so basically if I understand correctly, buffering means just storing values somewhere more convenient. So basically when you open a file, instead of reading the whole file at once and putting it in memory, like in your RAM, random access memory, and loading it into your RAM, it can do it in chunks. For example, some files are very large, so if you have a large log file, well, I'm not sure if you know, you should know what a log file is, right?
Log file, well, I think it's self-explanatory, it just logs everything.
Okay, that's good. Well, you never know, so I might as well ask, just to, so I wouldn't be like you would understand what I'm trying to say. So basically some log files can be very large, like multiple gigabytes size. So if you try to open it and load it all at once, you can run out of memory and everything will grind to a halt, basically, just because you wasted all of memory. So in those cases you can use buffering. So you would, for example, line buffering, so it will read only one line at a time, and so on. So yeah, stuff like that. Encoding, yeah, encoding is basically so there are different ways to represent an individual character. So for example, if you don't care about having, like for example, Lithuanian letters like E or Sh, so all of those letters, if you don't care about those, you can use a different kind of encoding that saves space. So basically this is needed for those cases when you know that well, it's very like niche, I would say, at this point. It's something people had to worry about previously, but it's been a while since I had to mess with encoding. Usually you just use the default one, which is UTF-8, meaning that it basically saves each, well, I wouldn't worry about it, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Encoding is, yeah, errors, whatever this means. Why do you pass along errors? Maybe this is what gets called if there's an issue. Encoding errors is an optional string that specifies how encoding and decoding errors are to be handled. Also, basically strict, ignore, replace. So these are the type of string you can pass. Interesting. Ignores errors. So default is what? None? So, okay. Close, FD, open, okay, I don't even know what these are, but basically, so that's the purpose of documentation. So you would have a place where you can actually check what everything does. If you, like, this is usually needed when you're doing like either self-studying or doing some research and so on. So that's when you usually go into the details like that, into documentation and so on. But it's always good to have like on hand, or have it at least bookmarked somewhere so you can quickly go and find it. Right. Output and output. So okay, so we have an open file, and then I guess if we, for W is for writing. Oh, so if you don't provide it, you get a read mode. Okay. We figured that out, and you need to close the file afterwards. Right. I guess we need to write something to the file first. Not read line. Yeah, right. So we can have it open in write mode. Why it's... Oh, this is the value. It's a tuple. Ugh. It's quite complicated for a beginner, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I still don't understand, like, if the file is like an external file, or it has to be an Eclipse file.
Oh, Eclipse has nothing to do with this. Eclipse is just, think of it as just a fancy notepad.
So it's like I have some random file on my desktop, let's say, and I want to edit it or read and write. I can do it from the Eclipse.
You can, yeah. You can usually, well, to make it a little bit more convenient, it organizes files into projects. That's why we created a project and added files to it. It's just a way to organize everything like neatly. So we know that this project, well, since this is a Python project, it has like, this is the Python path that was set up. So everything that's accessible to Python path is also visible here. If you want to explore what kind of libraries it has, like so on. So if you care for some reason which version of, let's say, Abstract Pi it's using and how it's implemented, you can do that. You can check here. But yeah, it's, and what when I'm talking about files, opening files, it's usually you have them in the same directory or somewhere close, because you need to basically, this is not just a file name, it's a path to the file. So if it doesn't have anything at the beginning, well, first place it looks for the file, it starts looking at your current directory. So since your application is running in your SRC directory, that's where it will look for this file. So if this file doesn't exist, then it will create. If it's in write mode, if it's in read mode, then let's see if we can run it. I think it will complain that file is not found. Yeah, so basically gives me a file not found error, and if I open it in write mode, it will work. Yeah, so it basically worked. It might even have created, yeah, so it created a file. So if you press on SRC directory and refresh it, and it will show that the file was created. Yeah, well, if you ran the code, as I have with open, with your file name.
But with write.
Yeah, with write option. Because if you try to open it for reading, then it will say, oh, we couldn't find the file you specified.
Okay.
So that's what I mean about reading and writing files. It's not. It doesn't have to do like with any file in particular. It doesn't have to be any special file. If you want to have for it to have an extension like a txt file, you run it and it will try to write into a txt file, and that's why now we have multiple files.
Okay.
This, that. Right. So it returns the file. It not just opens the file, it creates, there's a bunch of documentation here as well. Pretty much this, well, it should be very similar to the official documentation. So it's just a little bit more convenient to view it in a normal page. Right. So this is how we open a file. So, okay, it doesn't even just open, it creates, it assigns this variable, basically an object. Oh, object is basically a construct of something. Basically, object is a thing that can do stuff and stores data. So basically, this now when the open is executed and assign a value, it's basically an object that we can do stuff with. So for example, one of the things we can do with it is call write. Really not happy with. Can I mute it? Right. Okay, it doesn't give me any suggestions, which is a little bit annoying. I can take the example. So for example, one of the things you can do, it's supposed to have a write method, write function, that object. You can do this, write, you can write a line of whatever, like basically a string, or pretty sure it only accepts strings. Don't know. It doesn't have documentation. Well, it doesn't. Well, it does have documentation. It doesn't link properly Eclipse to that documentation because it doesn't know what type of object that is. I think if I can file, I don't even know what type of object it returns. It's a built-in. Open a file. Returns a file object. Specify which object. It's a little bit annoying. I can just pick randomly and be lucky. So, right. So yeah, open a file in write mode. Then we can call write on that file and write whatever we want into that file. So, for example, test a new line character, then write again. You can write variable value as well. It pretty much works the same way as print, but here it will actually print whatever we, instead of outputting here into the console, it will output and save everything into the file. So if I run this again and open the work file txt, oh yeah, it has all of this except it was not correct. Wrong slash. So if I run this again, if I understand correctly, W will overwrite it. Should overwrite it. Yeah, so test. This is not a comment. Side quotes. How's it going?
Trying to write something to the file.
Not writing?
No.
Okay, F write. Good. Did you run it? Try running it and see if what happens.
Wait, maybe it needs the.
Oh, right. I think it created another file.
Yeah.
So if you refresh it, you should see that file without an extension. Like, click on src directory and press F5.
Yep.
There's a file. Okay, so it does work. And that's pretty much it, what you need to do with the file. If you want, well, this is the most useful thing you can do. Just write text into the file, and then you can... So, files are a little bit odd in a way that they remember where... so basically when you do an operation on files, it remembers where you left off. So basically there's like, you can imagine like there is a cursor which knows, so when you do multiple writes, it doesn't keep writing at the same spot, it keeps writing at the end because the cursor is there. And you can actually call and manipulate that cursor, make it go to the certain line, make it skip a certain number of lines, or just skip certain number of characters, or find something and go to a specific spot in the file, and then you can write. So you can do things like that, and it works the same way when you're reading the file as well. So for example, if you think just a simple loop would help us. So for example, if we have, see, while is a very, maybe for is a little bit more simple. I think I need to explain lists first. Okay, let's start with lists. So basically, list is, well, very self-explanatory. So see, values will be, and list is defined by square brackets. So basically, everything now in the square brackets, I can put down multiple values. So 1, whatever. So basically now this variable has, well, basically this variable becomes a list, and it has however many values it has assigned to it. Basically it has all the values at once. So that's what makes it a list. So hopefully that's does it sound confusing? I don't think it is confusing. Maybe it is. Sure.
Not really, but I need to clarify something to myself first. Okay, so
Well, if you have any questions, just go ahead.
if I do this and then print. Do I do it like this?
No, if you want to print, just open brackets. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you expect?
Not that.
What did you expect?
A list.
Yeah, it is a list. And this is how lists are displayed. So this is how the values will get listed. So for example, well, this is not the right way to create a list. Like a proper way to create a list is, let's see, values, and I create a list like this. So I call a method or a function called list. So what all it does, it creates a new list and returns an new empty list. And then when I want to add values to it, I call the name of the list and append, and this will let me add values to it. So append that, append another value. I can append more values, and so on. So these are pretty much the same. Well, if the values were the same, it will result in the same list. except this will be created like in a proper way. And this is like a lazy way to define a quick and dirty list that you use once and don't really plan on manipulating the data. And this is like a proper way to create an empty list, and then you slowly populate it with data, with whatever you want to store in that list. So if you comment this out and say print values, so this will print the list, comment this out, so you will see it will look the same as the definition here. So it's just by default this is how the list, well, it doesn't matter what's inside the list. If it's a list, it will always when you print it out, it will have square brackets around it. Yeah, that's what I now I'm struggling to think.
Yeah, that was quite a long pause.
Yeah, I'm feeling quite tired. So yeah, and then it will all the values will be separated with comma, and since the values are strings have quotes around it. So if I populate it with numbers, I don't remember if you can mix and I'm pretty sure you can. Like you can mix and match values in Python anywhere. I would be surprised if it will complain that I append like a number. If I run it, yeah. So now you see the last value doesn't have quotes around it because it's not a string. Like quotes indicate that this is a string value, and this is, so if I add values, append again, I append string 55. So these will be different values. Yeah, so one has quotes indicating that this is a string, and this is just a number, an integer. Right.
Okay.
So this is how you can. Now, why I bring this up? Lists are very like essential. Like everything, pretty much. Oh, not everything. Lists are used extensively everywhere. So here, what can we do with lists? One very so I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to present this. A very cool thing is, let's see, there are a couple ways to loop. So basically loop is just doing stuff over and over again. One of the looping methods is for, meaning, well, for example, we go, say, for val in values. Let's print a formatted string, value in this is, then print out the val. Something like that. So if I run this out, I should get a bunch of, yeah, so now it looks a little bit different because it actually takes out the value and converts it into string, which is this. I just print out the string itself. It's not part of the list. Basically, but the cool thing, the thing I want to talk about is this for loop. So how this works. So basically, this is actually not the best, not the most simple. But this is the most useful form, I guess, so maybe we'll just stick with this. So basically when you have a list, pretty much a list, like, it can be, there's a thing called iterable. Iterable is basically anything that can be iterated over. And list is, yeah, list is, well, it basically is iterable thing. So that's why you can actually use it in the for clause. But basically you can use any iterable, quote unquote. Well, it's not quote unquote, but it actually is iterable. Well, I think I don't want to explain too much, to go into too much detail, because I think it would be overwhelming at this point. But basically, if you have a list, you can iterate over it like this using for statement, and you can also assign each value. So basically what this does, it goes over this list and takes each value one by one and assigns it to this variable. So basically if I so I didn't actually explain how you access individual values. So say print, I take my list values and I want to assign like a basically access a specific element in the list. I use square brackets again. Well, the syntax is a little bit different. I use variable name, and then in square brackets I enter the number, basically the index of the element you want to access. And one fun thing, I guess in programming in general, that stuff is zero index, meaning that this is the element number 0, this is element number 1, element number 3, so on, or 2, whatever. So if I press, if I try to access values, number 0, so it should print out 1 here. And I have 1. So this is how you access values. So for loop, what does? So what for loop does, it goes through the list and assigns, basically it goes one by one, increases. It starts from 0. It has like an internal, actually I'm not sure if it saves the value, but you can imagine as if it had an internal value, and each time the loop executes, it calls this list to that index and assigns its value to this. So it will be equivalent to val is equal to values 0. So the first time it executes, it will do this pretty much, and then we'll execute whatever is in the loop. So you can have like a lot of stuff here, lots of stuff here. So you can have like that. Did that make sense? That would be my question.
The val equals values 0, that confused me a little bit.
Okay, so values is just our list.
Yeah.
So I'll just rename it our list. So yeah, I just renamed it everywhere, so it's now our list. So I create our list, I assign it values. So basically this is how you put values inside, and this is how you access. You access by writing the name of your list, and in square brackets the number of, like the index, like the number of the element you want to access. And since it is also, you need to keep in mind that it's 0 index, so the first element is not number 1, the first element is number 0. So this is number 0, this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it is 0. If I write 1, it will, well, basically print out this value. So when you did print this, it means print out the whole list. That's why you get that. But if you want to just one specific value from the list, you need to specify which value you want to access with the number of the, what's the number of the element in the list, keeping in mind that the first is 0 and so on. So if I want the second element, I specify 1 and so on. So yeah, it printed out 2. Well, if I comment this part out, it will print out 2, because that's it's the second element in the list, which I can access by specifying the index number 1. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that everything that makes sense, but when you were talking about how the loop goes and then it does something, and then you wrote that val equals value 0, which is now our list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part I didn't quite understand. Like,
Hmm.
does it make the 0 because it starts from the beginning again, or?
Yeah, because all the lists always. I guess we will talk about dictionaries later on. So basically, all the lists always are start from 0 and then go up to however many elements there are in the list.
Yeah.
So always lists are like structured like that, and it's always the same. So that's why when you iterate over a list, you can always, instead of writing this, you can do for. So because for statement actually works a little bit like this. You need to specify how many times you want to do this this loop. So for actually, am I correct? Don't you? Wow, the basics are not that easy. Turns out. Remind myself as well. If for statement. It keeps over the list right off the bat. If else if like so for. So yeah, it basically creates a list and loops over the list. Explain. Oh, it doesn't explain the part I want. For number range. So this basically constructs an iterable object and iterates over it. Oh, so this creates an iterable object, right? Yeah, but it's really important. So basically, since the list can be iterated over or like taken like one item at a time, that's what for loop does. And each time it takes a new value, it assigns to this temporary variable we'd specify here. So like temp variable. So, and I can use it in the inside the loop. Oh, another thing about Python. So Python is a little bit odd in a way that. So basically, what do you think? Where does this for loop start and where does it end? What do you think? What would be your guess?
My guess would be that, I don't know, it doesn't start because, oh no, wait. Temp for, so it starts, well, it starts the same, but no.
So basically, which line do you think is the beginning of this for loop and which line is the end of this? The line numbers are here on the side.
For this loop, I think the start would be then 30.
30
And
in here.
yeah, because of the print line.
Okay, that's not how it works. Basically, this is the start of this for loop, and this is the end. So this is where it starts. This is where it ends. So basically, each time, well, when it iterates over the list, it will execute this part each time.
Okay.
And how does it know? Like Python is odd in a way where it doesn't have any special characters. In other languages, for example, you would have a starting bracket and an ending bracket to indicate that this is the start of your for section and this is the end. So everything included in these curly brackets, like in other languages, would be considered like inside the loop, and this is how you indicate like how much of of your code has to be like executed over and over. Python works a little bit differently. It relies on indentation. So basically, when I write this for loop and I want something to be executed in that for loop, it has to be indented, like it has to have a tab character. So basically, if I write something in this line, print this is outside the loop, and this I print this is inside the loop. Right. So what do you think? What will be the output of this application?
I think it would print the list, then it would print this is inside the loop, and then it will print this is outside the loop.
Well, yeah, well, ignoring this part is not relevant. What it will actually do, it will print out the first element. Oh, it will complain. Oh no, it will print out the first value, because this is what I said. If I use this variable, it will print out the first value from the list. Then it print out this is this inside the loop. Then it will start over, go to the next element on our list, and will print out this line with the second element. Then it will print out this is inside the loop again, and it will continue, like repeat this until the list is like it will go through until it exhausts all the elements of the list. Basically does the same thing for the all elements inside that list, and then when it's done, then it will print out this is outside the loop, like this.
Okay. Is it only because of temp variable, or it would do that well without the temp variable as well?
Yep, it will. Well, it won't print out the string if I comment it out. If I remove this, yeah, it will work the same way. Like it will just won't print out the value. Basically, because this is what in like for loop, this is how it decides how many times to execute. It executes as many times as there are elements in the list. And each time it creates a new value, you have an option to assign whatever is in the list, to assign to temporary variables that you can use inside the loop itself. Hopefully that makes sense. I guess there could be, I can demonstrate it. Well, so one cool thing about using using Eclipse or any other integrated development environment is debugger. So basically, if you double click at line of code, it will print out, like it put a dot like this, and this means it's a breakpoint. And what a breakpoint does is when you run an application in a debug mode, it will, when it finds a breakpoint, it will just stop and let you just, well, it will stop executing. For example, so debug mode is this icon. Like you have run to run application normally, and you have next to it debug to run in debug mode. So then it means like well, it's looking for breakpoints. So now it hit a breakpoint. So now it's asking if you want to switch to a different perspective, which is meant for debug only. So yeah, now it switches to debug. And the cool thing with debug is that it indicates which line it's on. So that's why it's gray. And I have different buttons now. I can control it. So I step over, step into. So if I press F6, it will execute one line of code. So it executed this, it assigned spam a value, so I can actually see here all the variables and their values at the current point. So I can see that spam got assigned this integer value. Then I will press well, this line will assign text value. Oh, it will assign this this string to the text variable. So if I press this, then that gets done. So I can go through like line by line. So this will extend the list. For example, our list, if I look at its length, it says its length is 1, first element is 1, I add another element, so this is the element's index, so 0th element is 1, first element is 2, so on. So I add all the items, so the next thing it does, okay, it assigns a value, val. So now it enters the loop, so it does this, temp var is 1, because that's the first element of our list, then it prints out this string, then this, then it comes back to the start of the loop, it checks for the next element, it assigns the next element to the temporary variable, which is 2, and then it executes the loop again, goes back, and it keeps going back until the list is, all the elements in the list are used. And then when it's done, it goes outside the loop and continues executing. Did it make any clearer? That would be my question.
Maybe, but it goes through the list only because of the temp variable command, or
no? It goes through the list because the list is listed here. It's because we use in the for statement we use our list here.
Okay.
This is completely optional. Like this is just for our own convenience. Don't think, is this optional? Can I just, oh, maybe it isn't optional. Maybe it asks, you have to have something to take the value of an element in the list. If I name it X, I can use X inside. Yeah, that's why it iterates over the list. Not because we assign the value. Well, we kind of have to assign the value, but the for loop, like, that's why it iterates over the list, because we use our list here. Hopefully that made it clearer.
Yeah, kinda did.
Okay. So I want you to try this and do the debug mode, because debug is really cool, really useful. Paste you the code so you wouldn't have to type it out yourself. Just copy paste, it should work.
Don't have the list, but I think that's fine.
We have values, so use don't name that variable. Will work the same way.
Okay, then let's try how this works. Okay. And if we run it in debug mode, I have to
Put down a breakpoint. Yep.
page. Okay, then it shows all the values. And what's this len?
It's the property of the list. Lists have length, so basically you can always, for example, if you take your list, yes, anyway, print formatted string length of our list is, can use our list then, oh, actually it's not how you do it. Length is a built-in method, so len, I think this is how you do it. I want to check if you can actually, if there is a function like this. Can't. Okay, so we need to call len. In short, it's just a property that indicates the length of the list, so how many elements it has. Length of the list is 5. So if you call function length and pass it along something you want to know the length of, that's how you get, so this is how you get the length of stuff, of lists, usually. It could be any iterable, but usually it's a list. So that's why it has that length explicitly said about your list or debug. Watching your code. You wanna, yeah, length values, yeah, len is another built-in function in Python.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you do debug, well, also do the debug again. I didn't actually show you what's so cool about it. So you can press F6 and F6 will just execute another step. Yeah. So you can go step by step and watch what's going on with your variables and where the program is going and what it's doing. So that's why debug is very useful. Especially if you can't figure out what's happening, why is the value, well, why you don't get the proper value assigned at the proper spot and so on. Look at the viewership. Like we had 6 viewers at some point.
Nice.
Like, well, don't look at my viewership at the moment. Oh, you can't really see, it's all grayed out, damn it. Does this help? Not. Yeah, well.
Gonna see in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, but it's not gonna show nice. Well, I guess I can show you afterwards. Right. What else? So, any questions about for loop? How does looping over the list works?
Well, I don't know. It just like for it's. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't sound intuitive, right?
Yeah, it's like.
Because usually, okay, so I'll explain where the for comes from. So, 4, 5. It's the usual form. So basically it means do something this many times. So for X amount of times, do this. So let's see, write something. So this is the origins. So this is how it was like in other languages, like in historically. This is what it means. So that's why it is for, meaning this for that many times do this this loop.
Okay.
But it doesn't really. It's not really all that useful to just have a for loop that says do something a certain amount of times. You usually want to have a variable. Usually you use it to iterate over the list. So instead of writing for, let's say, length of my list, say of our list, if you want to iterate over the list, so you take the length because that's how many times you will have to execute it, and then you go. Usually you need to keep track, so you need to have like an index. You start at 0, then thinking maybe I should explain while, but maybe not. Maybe while it would be too confusing at the moment.
For is confusing enough.
Yeah, so let's say write, and I want to go and do something like, for example, print out the value of the item in my list. Mixing this up. It's F. I use my index, then I increment my index. Oh yeah, plus plus is meaning increase by 1. Because, well, you used to need to do stuff like that. So this would be if 4 was preserved in its original form in Python, it would look something like this. Like this is a lot of lines. Like you always need to declare an index. You need to take care of like keeping track of that index and so on. So I guess this is like a shorthand for that. Instead of doing it like this is not a valid Python code, but it means like that's why it ends up looking like this, which is not that intuitive. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure it does. Like, what questions do you have? Let's start with that.
Okay, like at which point it knows how many things there are in the list and how many times to rewrite the next thing?
You mean here, yeah? Right? We're
Yeah.
not talking about this old example then. Right.
No, about the new one.
Oh, so internally inside the Python code, because this is not what actually gets executed. This for statement gets expanded into something like this behind it. So that's how it knows. It calls the length method of this list, so it knows how many times it will have to execute, and it doesn't even, well, it doesn't even have to do that actually, because iterable objects have a function like get next instance, like get next element or something like that. So that gets called behind the scenes, and it gets one by one until it exhausts the list and there's nothing else to return. So in that case, it doesn't even need to know how many times it will have to iterate. It just needs to know if there is anything to iterate over. So if you basically give it an empty list like this, it will execute 0 times, because it will try to assign first element or the next element from the iterator or iterable object. Well, in this case, list. Like, so it tries to grab a first element from the list, and there's nothing in the list, so the first element is undefined. Then it knows like it's time to stop doing the loop. It doesn't matter how many times it executed before. So it doesn't even know in advance. Doesn't need to know in advance how many times to execute.
So it just keeps going until there's nothing more for it to grab, as you say, and then just goes on with the next lines of code.
Yeah, exactly. And it knows where the actual loop, so how many lines to execute over and over in each list, it knows based on indentation. So because it has a tab here, it means, yeah, this is part of the for loop. And we can do another for loop inside. So for example, let's see, x in, and we can reiterate over the same list. Our list, and you see the indentation automatically changes again. So meaning all of this stuff will be inside internal loop. Right? Print. Can do print. Value. X. Formatted. Right, so now what will happen? It will go through this list and encounter another loop, so it will start executing this list on this, well, this loop on the same list. So it basically start over, so it will print its value. Well, so basically, I'll take a look at this. So what it does, I guess it doesn't really look nice. To run in debug, I guess it would be more intuitive.
I kind of get it. Like the first loop takes the first um, I don't know, let's say thing, first word one. It
Yep.
prints that. Then the second loop takes over, prints all the list. Then it goes back to the first loop,
Yeah.
and they switch like that.
And it's, when it takes the first loop, starts over again, then it encounters this internal loop again, and it will execute the internal loop again.
Yeah.
For each element. So you basically can have nested loops like this. And well, right. So I hope it's clear at this point how for loops work.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least in this case. So why I wanted to go through for this for loop to begin with. When you read a file, right, so when you open a file, you can basically, the file is a list of lines. So you can go through the file line by line using for loop. So find an example, an output. So basically, yeah, this is. So, well, basically, this is how it would look like. Yeah, so you can call the read function on the whole file, and it will read the whole file. And read line will read only one line. So it read file line by line. Or you can just iterate over the whole file using for loop like this, because it's basically a list of lines. Well, it will get treated as a list of lines in this case. Let's see.
So then, what's the difference between read a file and opening it with a for?
Which read do you mean? The first read that reads the whole file?
Yeah.
Oh, so it will read. It doesn't break the lines. Basically. Alright. Let's create a file first, I guess. Okay, so let's iterate. We have a test, right? Test line. Then we can do. Can list. Okay, let's iterate over our thing. And instead of printing, let's do write into the file. Right? Make it formatted. Temp. Brackets temp. Temp val. Temp variable. So this will go through the list and write all the elements into the file plus a new line character. So each element will have its own line. So if I execute it, it doesn't print. Oh, it prints out that this is outside the loop. Okay. So if we take a look at the file, this is what we have as a result. We have all the elements. Well, we started with the test, then the first element, second, and so on, that were printed out into the file. And now, see, we file, close. Always means, for the purpose of this tutorial, I would say, it just means it loses the cursor. So you can't actually do anything else with the file when you close it, and it doesn't remember where the cursor was. So basically, when you open it, it will start at the beginning.
Okay.
So now, if you open the file again, it's pretty much the same thing. Open, but instead of writing, we open it for reading. Now we can do for line in the file. We can do print, right? Right. can actually do something fancy. Say I equals 0. This is like would be like an index, and what we do here, line format. Line here, which will be just a number, is I print out the actual line. Just gonna sum this much. So the temporary variable line, and here I increase the value of I before I end the loop. I guess I can do it beforehand. Complaining. Understand. Countered /n strong. Not run. Syntax invalid syntax. It's not. Maybe it's you can't do that in Python. Plus equal one then. Okay, well, this is basically, this means this is a shorthand, a fancy way to do I equals I plus 1. So instead of having to write this, you can just write I plus equal 1, meaning that's just incremented by this. Well, it could be any number. But basically, well, I guess we can leave the obvious form, like the very not short-handed form. So what will this do? We'll go line by line. It will keep track of the number of line, the index of the line. So line 1 is, and it prints out the line. So at least that's the idea. Right. Why does it have new line characters? Do I print out new lines somewhere? Not really sure why there's where this space comes from. I don't do this. No, now this is what happens. Line 2, so everything gets bunched up into one line. I need to enter. Right. Where does this space come from? Confused. Yeah, this is odd. Any questions?
Maybe. Wait, so now in the work file, everything is like without the spaces, right?
Even without spaces.
Yeah, without the extra lines. And so now what would happen if in your code you would comment out the lines that are instructing it to write into the file?
So this
Only
basically.
read it.
Well, since the file already exists, it will just read the file. The output should be the same. Oh, actually, write mode. It overwrites the. Okay. Basically, now the file is empty. Oh no, it has test in it. So line 1 is test. Okay, I didn't do a job of disabling writing. Okay. Let's rewrite. And disable writing. We'll open it for writing. Out. So now it will, well, the output will pretty much be the same. Undefined. Try to write here. Yeah, the output is the same because the file is already there. It has all the data. So these, like, oh, you know how you, when you write to the file, like that's the benefit of using a file, that it preserves the data over long periods of time, over the end of the execution of the program. If that makes sense.
Yeah, kinda does.
Yeah. So, what do you think so far? You sound kind of tired.
Yeah, it's
Is
like, you know, with a fresh untrained mind, it's just really hard to wrap my head around some concepts. Like, why is it happening like that? And then you explain it for 10 or 15 or 40 minutes, and then I start to understand it. But it's still quite difficult.
Okay. Was anything confusing so far that you still don't understand fully?
I feel like I don't understand anything fully.
Okay. What would be the first thing you don't understand? Like, let's do some questioning. Say, like what's not clear? What do you think you need to know to understand it fully? That makes sense.
I think I should learn more about the syntax and everything.
So you think the syntax is...
Yeah, how everything has to be written so that I can understand it and the interpreter can understand it.
Yeah, I guess both parts are kind of important. Yeah, the syntax is quite... well, there's nothing special about the syntax. You learn it slowly by slowly. It's not something you can learn just in one go. I don't think it's the right approach to just learn the whole syntax. I'm trying to, like, the bare minimum, this, like, stuff like this is how you assign a value to a variable. So values, like, what seems unclear about the syntax so far? Is there something you don't understand about the syntax? Something that doesn't seem reasonable?
Well,
something you don't understand fully about the syntax?
Well, actually, I think no. Everything looks to be quite clear, because I feel like we didn't cover too much today.
Yeah.
So
that was the goal. To not overwhelm.
Yeah, so I'm feeling quite good for now still.
Yeah, so for loop is a very useful concept, like a useful way of looping over stuff, because a lot of things will be presented in iterable data structures like lists. Or lists is like basically a way of ordering data, and yeah, so usually you will be able to iterate over stuff using for loop, like just like this, and I use that a lot all over the place.
And what kind of like, do you have some examples that cannot be iterated?
That can be iterated. Okay.
No, that cannot.
Yeah, can't.
Like,
yeah. Oof.
Like you say, lists can be iterated, and they're pretty common. So
Yes.
that means basically a lot of information can be iterated. But then
let's say a value like this, an integer. You can't iterate over an integer. Say we have an integer defined. Like it will not complain because it doesn't realize that this can't be iterated over until it runs it. Maybe it can be. Maybe I'm making fool out of myself. Yeah, so basically, yeah, type error, int object is not iterable. So you can't iterate over a number, but you can reiterate over a string. oddly enough, because string underneath is actually just a list of characters. So when you will be iterating over a string, you will be iterating over individual characters in the string. So if this will run perfectly, and it will say my string, and since I'm looping over the string, going through its elements, then yeah, it takes each letter as a separate element.
So yeah, it breaks down the string into a list anyway.
Yeah, it's not that it breaks it down. It actually is a list of characters underneath. When you create like a string and define a string, it actually gets stored as a list of characters underneath. It's not really exposed, but that's what it is. That's why it behaves the same way as any other list.
Okay.
So, you know, this is not something you do all that often, iterating over a string itself, because you don't really care what are individual letters inside, usually. But you can do that. And yeah, trying to find things you can't iterate over, yeah, it's usually you can. Usually you can't iterate over things that you define yourself. So basically, if you define a new type of variable and yeah, create an instance of it, and if you don't explicitly make it iterable, like well, to make an object iterable, you need to do a bunch of stuff that all the iterable objects can do. For example, you need to have a way of knowing its length. You need to have a way of getting the next element. You need a way to order the elements and so on. So all of these things, well, we'll get to that. Those like user-defined variables can't be iterated over, usually. Unless you put extra effort to make it iterable, then yeah, you can iterate over it.
Okay.
And most of the stuff in the language, in the Python language itself, if it comes from the standard Python library, meaning it's built in with Python, you didn't have to install anything on top of it, you need to download anything to make it work. Usually it means it comes from the standard library, and stuff there implements as much functionality as possible. So if it can be iterated over, well, if it makes sense for that thing to be iterated, like file, for example. The file, we open a file, and it kind of makes sense that you can iterate over its lines. So that's why we can use it this way, because they put in the extra effort to make it iterable object, like iterable thing, data structure. Even though basically it's just a file that you can open and read, but they implement all the extra stuff to make it more useful. Anyways, not sure if that made sense. Hopefully it did.
As I understood it, they just pre-install plugins to make everything easier.
Yeah, well, not exactly, because it's not that it's a plugin. It's what actually, like, the code is what actually works. It's the actual instructions. Plugins will be made out of this code. Well, when I was talking about downloading something, I meant downloading and adding an external library. For example, if you want to work with Discord, then there is no line of code that tells send this message to Discord. You will have to add a library provided by Discord themselves, or maybe a third party. I think usually it's the third party. They just provide other stuff for people to implement something called a wrapper that actually implements that functionality in more accessible way. Well, whatever. That's beside the point. Stuff like that you need to install, like the third-party libraries. Well, we didn't really touch on libraries because we don't use any here. But we have only very limited, like we can only access very limited number of features just like this in the plain code to access more features. Like for example, we can go to the documentation. Don't go to tutorial, we go to library reference. Library reference, this basically lists all the libraries that are inside the Python. So if you want to, like this, this is where the magic happens. This is all the stuff that you can actually do, useful stuff you can do with Python language. We can only access built-in functions and built-in types. So this is what we can access when we just don't do any importing or including any other additional libraries. So these built-in functions and types are accessible just anywhere. If it's Python, you can use that. So that's what we're using so far. So if we take a look at the built-in functions, we have all of the things we used, like open. We used that. We used, what else would you use? We used print, I think. Yeah, so print is here. If you want to know what else you can do, you can go to the built-in functions list and just read about them if you want to know more. List, yeah, that's another function which basically creates a new list. It can even accept another list as a basis, so it will create a list based on another list. So it will have all the elements of another list. Well, it's an iterable object, so something like a list. What else would we use? So all of these functions can be accessed directly without doing anything. But if we want to access something more advanced, for example, date and time. Ooh, this is a pain in the ass. Date and time is usually very annoying to deal with. So let's not look at it. Let's look at something else. Oh, math. Math is fun, right?
Always.
So yeah, if you want advanced math functions, let's say floor, so basically rounding down functionality. If you want to like calculate a value and get like round it down, then you will need to access it through math library. So for example, specifically, I guess, if I try to use was it floor?
Yeah, floor.
Yeah, it will say that print or take 5.5, whatever. So take basically a fractional number. It will complain that floor is not defined. So for it to know what floor I'm talking about, we need to use, first of all, we need to import, meaning that we don't use just the basic functionality, we need other features from the language, from the Python. Well, this is where standard Python library comes into play. So we do import, do math. I made a typo. Math. So now it shows that, okay, it says that this import is unused just because we don't use anything from it. So we do math dot floor. So now it knows that this floor comes from this math library. And now if I run it, it will actually say, well, 5. Formatted string or value is where I was editing that. It says floor value is math floor. Color the brackets because it's a code that needs to be executed. So yeah, it's 5. So yeah, this is how we import something from a standard library. And there are things you can't find in standard library. Like for example, if you want to interact with PayPal, with Facebook, with Discord, you need to use libraries that are provided by someone else. So you need to go into internet, download them, include them in your Python path, so that it will know how to find them when you try to import them in your code and so on. So it's a process basically, but it's not really relevant at the moment. We're not doing that. I'm just for broader context to understand.
Yeah, but we touched on the libraries, so good to know what those are.
Yeah. So standard library is basically what comes built in with Python. You don't need to go download. When I was talking about downloading something, installing something, I meant like third-party libraries, not plugins or extensions. Plugins and extensions are written using programming. Like you don't use plugins. Like you don't rely on some plugin or extension or something like that. You don't rely on other applications when writing applications yourself. You rely on code. Like if you want to include some additional functionality, you rely on some code you import or you reference, like through libraries. If that made sense. I'm not sure it made sense. It barely made sense to me. So I'm sure it was quite confusing.
Oh, I just understood that you don't rely on external stuff, programs, when you're writing a program.
Yeah, that's not how you interact. You interact through libraries usually, because library will say what's the correct. Well, I guess we get to that point eventually. It's not really important at this point. For this, at this point, we just want to know how to write a loop, how to assign a value, and how for loop works. So we can read values from a file, and then you can write. So basically, this is the bare minimum. I would consider this is the bare minimum to make something useful, like making a script that can, well, for example, you can write a script that reads a file of, let's say, prices, and you can loop over those prices, and you can do stuff with it. Like, for example, you can find the lowest one or the highest one, or so on. And you can do a bunch of stuff with strings. But yeah, I think it's enough for today. It's been like, what, 3 hours already? I guess you can't see still.
You can see how much. Yeah, 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Yeah, so it's a proper lecture. 2 lectures, back to back. Well, how do you feel?
Like my brain is melting, but I think I learned something, so feeling positive.
Okay, if you feel good about this, then we can continue. Like I'm not sure. What do you think about doing this tomorrow again?
I think yeah, if I manage to get home roughly the same time as today, I think yeah, we can continue this tomorrow.
Okay, that's good. Because I don't want you to just forget all the stuff. I want you to keep practicing it little by little.
Yeah, that's why they say that practice makes it perfect.
Yeah. Well, we are not trying to make it perfect. We're just trying to learn stuff, so we could make something. Well, yeah, I'm really excited about this. Even though I was a bit tired, like I slept like not that well today, but hopefully this. I'm tired. That's my excuse. So if you feel like you can play around with this and try writing like.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed because it's almost past my bedtime, so
Yeah,
need to...
right. I will do the same. Soon enough.
Yeah, I need to get ready, you know, work and stuff.
Yeah, work and stuff. Okay, well, I guess see you tomorrow. Well, I can stop streaming now.